Hello, and welcome back to Raven's Keep. Things have been a little busy lately, so I haven't posted in a while, but I wanted to go ahead and take a quick minute to show you my Stream Deck setup and a little bit of the tech talk for the game room. Okay, so you can see here that I have our Stream Deck XL set up with the Elgato Stream Deck software on my laptop here next to me. Real quick, I just want to show you kind of how I've got it laid out on the Stream Deck here. I just redid everything. I used to have it all in a couple of folders. I had a music folder, I had a sound effects folder, and then I had a scenes folder. But I found that I was click-clacking too much in the middle of a game. And it took me too long to get to where I wanted to go, especially when impromptu things would happen. And I couldn't get to it quick enough. So I recently went ahead and just broke everything out into just their own key and, of course, multi-actions. First page, you'll see I've got, and pay no mind to the animations that I have assigned to the keys. They're all just kind of random and fun and silly. But page one, obviously music. And the way that I do music is I use Apple Music and I create playlists in Apple Music. And I use a program on MacBook called Shortcuts. To my understanding, this is relatively new. And you can create shortcuts for all kinds of things across your computer. I use it to create shortcuts because the direct Apple Music controls inside of Elgato are limited. They're not exactly what I'm looking for. So I use the shortcut controls in Elgato and have it communicate with Apple Music to play a playlist. So I tap any sort of playlist. You'll see I have Chill Ambience, I have D&D Explore, D&D Tavern, Village, Combat, Stealth and Tension, Mystery, Sailing, Horror, and then a couple of our character-specific playlists, which are very character-specific, all laid out here. And then in the top right corner, I have my playback controls for Apple Music, and I have this repeated on the first couple of pages in the same spots. So if I'm on another page, I can still navigate music. I can turn it down, up, whatever I need to do. So I have play, back, forward, mute. These volume controls in the middle are for the MacBook Pro. The ones down here are Apple Music specifically. And the reason that I do that is I have my laptop plugged into the mixing board because we record all of our episodes. I have my laptop plugged in as a channel on our mixer so that I can have a direct feed of all of our music and sound effects, and I can mix that in post. I find that flexibility for me, because I own a video production company and I need that flexibility, is the best way to go. So I have an 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch going to the 7th channel on our mixer, and that gives me a direct feed. Unfortunately, what I had to do with the MacBook to make that possible is I had to set it as, in my sound settings on the laptop, I had to set it as a multi-output device. Since I have audio coming out of my laptop and needing to go to two different places, the Bluetooth for the surround sound system and the channel on the board. So I had to set up a multi-output device, and when you do that, if I hit the volume up and down buttons on the laptop, it doesn't let you adjust your overall laptop volume. So as long as I've got a decent feed going to the mixer and I've got a good volume set on the surround sound system, I am able to adjust volume within Apple Music. So that's most of my sound adjustment is through Apple Music, and I just make sure to adjust the sound effects that I queue up kind of ahead of time because there isn't really a way for me to adjust that in game. So I've got my transport controls in the top corner. I've got all my different playlists here. And then I have a couple of random things here. I have stop audio, which is designed specifically to sound effects. So if I have some music playing, let's cue that up. And then I want the room begins to shake around you and it begins to crumble. So I hit rumbling, which adds kind of a rumble, low, shaking sound to the room. But if they leave that area, but the tension is still there, I want to be able to stop the rumbling without stopping the music. So stop audio is specific to sound effects. And the music continues on. So I've got that on there. And then I've also got default lights. The way that we do battle maps is I project them onto our table using the Samsung Freestyle 2 projector and the like a piece of white poster board. And in order for it to show up really well, I have a projection lights preset, which will dim everything down, obviously except for my video lights here. And then I need to be able to very conveniently hit default lights, which just bring them back up to default. So I've got that on the first couple pages. So moving on to the second page, I have sound effects. Some things are tied to lighting as well. So I've got some multi-actions that will, again, I've got my default lights. I've got my multi-action that will cue up lighting and sound. So for example, an explosion. There we go. The effect is minimized, of course, because of the video lights, but you can see that the lights flash and the sound effect cues. So some of the sound effects on page 2 are designed to work with lighting. I think my fire ambience does it as well, or is that just sounds? That's a sound effect. So I've got that separated just in case. I've got wind. I don't know if you can hear that. I've got stone doors opening. So it's mostly sound effects, and then with a couple of examples where it can cue up with lighting as well. So that's sound effects. Again, I've got my stop audio, my default lights, and my audio transport controls. These two buttons here, I wanted a way to just be able to kill all the lights and bring them back up. Sometimes in a narrative situation, you might want that to happen. So I've got this just kills the main house lights. And this just brings them back up. So quick little things there. And then page 3, oh, by the way, I use Apple Music primarily for music, but I also really love Pocket Bard. So I've got a button tied to that that just simply launches Pocket Bard, which is kind of nice. If I ever just kind of want to shake things up, I can do that. So then on page 3, I've got what I'm calling scenes. This is specifically sound effects and lights together, so it creates a whole scene. So for example, I have a cave interior. Again, it's hard to tell because of the video lights, but the lights dim down and go blue. And there's a subtle kind of echoey dripping effect. And by the way, I also have default lights, a multi-action. So as the default lights come up, the multi-action is they go to default lights and it stops the sound effect. So I've also got one called Blood Moon. This is just a light scene. All the lights kind of go dim and go really, really red, very dramatic. Now this is another one that's lights and sound effects. Fire. Subtle flicker effect. And then of course our fire sounds. And then I've got one of my favorites, night ambience. So that'll transition the lights to blue and just has kind of crickets. Stormy evening is a good one. A little bit more vibrant colors. Big storm sounds, heavy rain. And then we'll just hit default lights. Bring the lights up. Fades out the sound effect. So if I wanted to, which I might actually do, I'm going to copy default lights and I'm going to bring it onto my scenes page as well, because I do think that would be pretty useful. And it's just that easy. And then I've got a page that I just added I'm calling stingers. And those of you in audio production will know that stingers are like one-off sound effect hits, like a gunshot, which I have here, a bell, tension impacts, coin drop, multiple coins dropping. And then, of course, after the gunshot, we have a reload. We have monster growls. And then I got some screams. And then, of course, I've got my default lights button up top, which I'm going to actually go ahead and move so that it's in the same spot every page. And that's it so far. The only complaint that I have with this current setup is the way that it communicates with Apple Music is fine. It works really well. I can go ahead and hit combat. And whenever I have it set up to go to a random song in that playlist, random track. Whenever I hit next, so that works well. My only complaint though is I can't set it up to where it will cross dissolve whenever I'm skipping tracks. It's a hard cut. So if you listen back to that combat, I'll just skip ahead into the track so you can hear it. Whenever I hit next, it doesn't cross dissolve. I would love to be able to set it up to cross dissolve as I skip a track. Sometimes a track will come on with like a choir vocal and it's pretty distracting. So I would like to be able to dissolve from track to track. The other thing that I would really like to be able to do is start a playlist on a random track. Anytime you start a playlist this way, it starts always on track 1. So I've gotten into the habit of hitting a playlist and then immediately just skipping so that it will start on a random track rather than the first track every time. Minor inconvenience, it's not a big deal, but it seems like that would be something that you could set up to be able to start the playlist on a random song. And then, of course, the cross dissolve from track to track. So, but other than that, I think I've got it set up pretty well. In terms of what I'm specifically using here, I've got the LifeX products, the light bulbs. I've got the regular bulbs up top and the candelabras in the sconces. And then I've got an LED light strip underneath the table, which I don't know if you can see it, but if I go to my blood in the water scene, everything should dim blue. And underneath the table should go red. Again, it's hard to tell with the video light setup, but it's pretty cool that you can control all the different lights independently. And then of course go to default lights and everything goes back to normal. So we're running a Daggerheart campaign. We are in episode 16 of our campaign. It has been an absolute joy to dive in to the deep end of Daggerheart. We've leveled up to level 2, so you get all the great tier 2 benefits, and it's been such a blast to lean into the narrative, to share narrative authority, and to like open up what all of these things can bring to the table. The group absolutely loves it when I break out a new sound effect or a new lighting effect to just immerse into the world that we're all building together. Stream Deck is a great tool to be able to do that now that we've kind of worked out some of the kinks and we have the technical setup complete. I'm using, for those audio folks out there, I'm using Audio-Technica AT897s for all of our audio, except for mine, which I have an Octava MK12 back here. The reason I'm doing that is it's a much smaller, shorter microphone, so I want to keep it back behind my GM screen here. And it's all feeding into a Tascam 12 channel mixer. It's great because you can use it as an external interface, or you can record onto an SD card. And honestly, that's what we're doing. We record all the channels individually. There's the 6 of us, and then channel 7 is the direct feed from the laptop. We record it all onto an SD card on individual channels. Because I own a video production company, I don't edit it in Logic or anything like that. I edit it actually in DaVinci Resolve, because the new AI audio filters for dialogue leveling and voice isolation perform better than anything I can do in Logic. And I find that Logic, even though it's great for audio only, I'm also editing these videos in DaVinci Resolve. So to me, it feels less clunky that way, to just have everything right in there. And so far, so good. The space is not acoustically treated, and the ceilings aren't very high. So I think it would make quite a bit of difference if we had a space that was set up for 6 people to go from very quiet to very loud and laughing and making all sorts of noise. But we outfit it the best way that we possibly can, with a surround sound system for the players and good shotgun mics and lighting effects. And it's all made possible with a Stream Deck and a MacBook. So that's a quick little insight into how I've got that set up. If you know of any other ways that we can cross dissolve from track to track on Apple Music, or start a playlist on a random song, let me know. If you know something that I don't, that would be amazing to know. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.